Hello, good evening. Thank you all so much for tuning into Two Magazine Influential Artists. My name is Henry Edwards II, the creator and founder of Two Magazine. Um, Today, with our special guest, we have a person that is captivating and she will compel you with her personality. She is a Howard University graduate, receiving her BFA as well as her MFA from NYU. Transitioning from Broadway to film, you may have seen her in The Wire as well as Ray Donovan and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, just to name a few. Her current ongoing role as Sissy Saint, the mother of Franklin Saint, who is played by Damson Idris on Snowfall. Snowfall of is a series that revolves around the crack epidemic in Los Angeles, California in 1983. So, who is this person that is so influential? Who would join me today? Well, guess what? Here she goes. Take a look.
You scare me, Franklin. How easy it is for you to look me in the eye and lie your ass off. You got your best friend's blood on your clothes and you don't miss a goddamn beat.
Hello, Miss Hyatt.
Hello.
How
Hi.
are you?
I am good. I am really, really good. It's good to be
That's
here.
good.
Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome to Two Magazine. I watched the first uh, episode from season four, the first two episodes from season four, and I just want to say, I don't know if you all are going to be able to make it. It seems like to me you may have to pull a Gladys Knight and leave on that midnight train to Georgia because LA is starting to become too much for the man.
It is definitely, I think y'all are going to be really, I was certainly moved. Uh, what I remember most is we shot the first 3 episodes pre-lockdown revolution. Not tremendous, but there is certainly a shift in consciousness, if nothing else. Episode 4 to episode 10, post lockdown revolution, for sure. And you guys are going to feel it. It's
So,
interesting.
how was it shooting during the pandemic?
You know, I think certainly for myself, but I think for so many of us, we were just so grateful to still be employed. Do you know that
Yeah.
challenges were, we were willing to embrace them, and it was, and challenges, it was simply being careful and doing everything that we can to stay employed, to stay in production. And that took a team effort of curtailing your lifestyle and being, not mixing around with family and friends and doing all the things. I mean, even though, the whole country was we had to do it even more so because it wasn't, as everybody was experiencing. If one person gets sick, then we all have to make some major moves. So it was just simply testing every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then while we were at work, we wore masks only when we took them off, only when we were actually filming. We'd rehearse in masks and sometimes the shield as well. And then when we started actually filming, we would take the masks off and everybody around us would put on the shield as well as the mask. So we all just really just kept each other safe so that we could finish the run.
Wow. Wow. I'm sure with COVID, this pandemic definitely changed everybody's world. For some, for the better, because now it lets us know, just like in show business, hey, the show must go on. We just may have to do some pivoting.
Yeah, definitely. The show must go on. But I think the beautiful thing, and this has been hard for everybody. I'm, this there have been a lot of deaths, a lot of painful deaths, a lot of how in God's name did this happen kind of deaths. And that I don't know that we can get through this experience not having known at least one person that has died as a result of COVID. I certainly have not gotten through that. But I do believe that something for some people, there has been, for me, there has been, it was a time of, the lockdown was really a time of, not lockdown revolution, because it was simultaneous. Introspection, major introspection, and for me, an opportunity, a time to throw out the rules. Nobody knew, what do we do now? We have no rules. We're not supposed to go anywhere. We're not supposed to do anything. Can't go to work. We can't go to school. We can't go shopping. We can't, what defines our life? So it gave me an opportunity to redefine my existence, and incredibly liberating and empowering. So that there is that side of this lockdown revolution.
Well, I will say with me, it definitely made me become a little more creative, especially in learning technology, because technology is not my best friend. But now I'm starting to become a little more proficient in it. Well, I guess we should start off with the interview. So my first question to you is, what makes you exclusive? What makes you who you are?
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Makes me exclusive. Golly gee. I think I don't know, except that I have lived my life, for better or worse, left of center. I have, it took me a while to embrace that consciousness and not try to keep up with the Joneses, which is the mantra that our society teaches us, but once I allowed myself to just be different in whatever way that was, I started enjoying my life more. So I'm exclusive because I unapologetically break the rules.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
So, I think so.
I have a tagline for my magazine, and it says, "Be exclusive, never sacrifice individuality for conformity." And that's pretty much my brand, is to make sure that everyone, embraces who they are, because everyone is different. And, the way society is set up now, especially with social media, if certain people are not doing certain things, then you're not in. And that's not the case. Everybody was put here to be disruptive.
Yes, I like that term. I like that very much. And it's interesting how, unfortunately, so many of us do not allow ourselves to, because we this is a society that preaches very much like our industry, and our industry is just a reflection of our society, right? Do what works, right?
Do what works.
In the past. So if this behavior people gravitated to that behavior. Well, you gravitate to that too, because we know what works. But what a wonderful world we would create if we stopped following the trend, following what worked for him. Doesn't work for you, but follow it anyway. I mean, what a wonderful world we would live in if we all gave each other permission to do our own thing. And I really do think in doing that, we would all come right back to center.
Yep.
It's not a matter of then there'll be chaos. Everybody will be doing that. That's some fear mongering bullshit. But it's cursing.
It's okay.
I really do think that when we branch out, as we are supposed to do, like you're saying, being disruptive, when we allow that disruption, that is when we find harmony.
So what led you to acting?
It was my calling. My father, the earthly understanding of it. My father was an actor, and my mother is, before she retired, she was a museum director. So I have been drenched in art my whole life, and the culture of art, and being around artists my whole world. And then I was bitten by the bug. I don't even like that term. I grew into it and found my home in it, and then went to college for it and went to grad school for it. And the medium has changed. I spent my young life in theater, and then when it was time to go into professionally, I moved into the camera. But it's all the same thing. It is the spiritual consciousness of it for me is that I was meant to be an artist, and being an artist is being a vessel for truth. And that's what I've been asked to do. And that's how I communicate my truth. And that is how I allow my being to be used as a vessel for truth. The capital T.
So you kind of use acting as your assignment, like a divine assignment. I feel like personally we all are here on divine assignment.
Absolutely.
And of course, it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, is to bring us all back to center and to bring us all back as one.
Yeah.
So this is your assignment to be able, and through this assignment, you can definitely touch a lot of lives through your gift of acting.
Yeah, telling stories. It is the age-old, time-old tradition within the African and the human experience of telling stories, of teaching through storytelling, right? This is how we've learned our culture. This is how every community in Africa has a story to tell. Everybody has a Brer Rabbit or an Anansi who we learn the messages through the stories that we pass down. And that is what art is. We're telling stories through, a work of art that we look at, or seeing dance, or whatever, seeing a film or theater. It's all just telling stories, conveying oneself to oneself.
Now, having said, no, I totally agree. And you said that so eloquently. Now, having said that,
yes,
is there a connection between you and your character, Sissy Hyatt?
Sissy Saint. Yeah.
No, I'm going to Sissy Saint. I'm sorry. Sissy Saint.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Sissy is a single mother. I am a single mother. Sissy is I think Sissy is an activist in her own way. Do you know? Um, oh man. Sissy is invested in the desire to be bigger than, something I've been thinking about a lot lately. In India there is a caste system, right? It's you are born into a hierarchy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what you do, you will always be in that level.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest level or the highest level, your family is born into that, and that is where you will be for the rest of your life. That's the assumption. And the more I pay attention to that consciousness, the more I think that we in this country, and I think to some extent throughout the world, lives in a caste consciousness. Do you know where that many people unconsciously live the life they were brought up in? Do you know? Whatever that is. And the ones that stand out are the ones that break that understanding, that decide for themselves against all odds, that is not who I choose to be. I choose to be something bigger. I choose to be something broader than your understanding of who I am. And that's what I'm going to reach for. And I think that is Sissy. That is Sissy, and that is Franklin. And I can certainly identify with that more and more. You know, I'm not a part of whatever box you think I should fit in. I really am not.
Mm-hmm.
And even the box that I have unconsciously created for myself, the older I get, the more I realize that I'm not even that box. And there is always this desire to branch out into a consciousness that is even bigger than what I imagine for myself. Do you know? And I think that's Sissy Saint.
Not being complacent. Yeah.
It's not even be yes, but even bigger than that. It's because, I mean, what is complacency? I mean, you're busting your ass, you're working a job, you get a degree, you're earning a living and stuff. That's not complacency. But there is, even when you mark off all the checks of what you're supposed to achieve in life, there are some people who have this energy within them. Yes, I've checked all those boxes and I'm still not happy. Something else in me, there is something else in my being that is not being served just here. Even with the degree and the husband and the child and the house and the blah, 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 there is something in me that is still not being fulfilled. Is it complacent? No, I don't know if it's just complacency. It's doing what you know. And that's
what you know.
Do. But for some people, and it takes a great deal of courage. It's not an easy thing. And it's not like you're always fighting the outside. Sometimes the challenge is within. Do you know? The understanding of self within. Do you know? Yeah.
Yeah. The challenge from within. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, quick question.
Yes, baby.
So, your last name on Snowfall is Saint.
Yeah.
I find that to be a little contradiction in the last name Saint. Consider the fact that Saint means, oh, this person is of high praise. This person is pretty much quote unquote holy. People look up to this person. But you all have this other life that's going on too. I get it with the costume because with the costume you definitely don't dress like the rest of the characters that would be profiled, in the drug lane. Um, how does that work with the last name Saint?
Well, I mean, isn't that beautiful? I mean, isn't that life, right? We are. Life is just a series of contradictions, isn't it? Right. So
Mm,
it makes sense that. But Uh, I think, I mean, clearly it was an artistic choice to
very artistic.
choice because these are all fictional characters, right? So it was an artist's choice to decide to represent the contradictions of life in this family's name as they go through this hell, this journey that is life. And just the beauty of the reality of, you know, all that glitters ain't gold.
That's true. That's true. That is true. So true. And I was wondering that. I was like, what is the connection between their lifestyle and the last name Saint? Love it. So, why is African diaspora important?
Because it is truth. That's where I always go. That's where I try to live in being truthful, being as truthful as you can, um, and living a truthful life. If we are to live a truthful life, then we are to embrace the consciousness of ourselves as African people. And in doing that, we must embrace that our consciousness is worldwide.
Mm,
Uh, and as human beings, it is ridiculous to try to convey some lie that we are not a part of the human diaspora, right? The African consciousness is a part of the human diaspora. So why is it important? Because it exists, because it is a truthful depiction of life. And if we are striving for truth, then it must be represented.
must be represented. That's right. Um, how has Snowfall positioned itself to depict or examine the African diaspora experience?
Simply by telling this story.
Telling the story.
We are talking about the journey of an African community. In We are being specific in that it is in South Central. We're not attempting to speak about life in Ohio. We are not attempting to speak about life in Timbuktu. We're talking specifically about the journey of African people in this particular geographical space. And how and that was that was one of the most important, if not the most important, goal for John Singleton, and it is something that he always be specific about us, this community that is South Central. And in doing that, we are then telling a universal story, no doubt about it. But let's pay attention to the nuances of this culture. And in doing that, I think it creates an appreciation for the specificities of South Central, but for the specificities of everybody's individual communities, right? That the are important.
Wow. Wow. Why do you feel like there should be African diaspora representation in film?
African diaspora, meaning, well, I don't know that we can. Again, I don't know that we can tell a truthful story. If you want to connect to an audience, you really have to. You have to make sure that you're being truthful in your representation. We certainly have, I know I grew up with, Tarzan, living in the jungle, the black and white TV show that we would watch every Sunday or whenever it came on, Saturday or Sunday. I grew up with the Andy Griffith Show. I grew up with, I don't know, whatever of those black and white half hours that when I came to this country, we were absorbing, and Joni Loves Chachi and Happy Days and all of that shit, where I didn't ever see myself, right? But thankfully we have moved out of the world where you tell a story from the white perspective and that's supposed to represent us all. We're growing, we have grown, and we are continuing to grow. And the more we grow, the more truthful we get, and the more realistic we get. And that just naturally brings in the African experience. I don't know that we have. I will respectfully be bold enough to say that we have not in this country as African people embraced the diaspora. We embrace an African American consciousness. But seldomly do we find stories in this country that represent the African diaspora. Speak to any African Brit who lives in this country or who has chosen to work in this country, and they will tell you, yeah, in order to get a job here, I had to cover up my accent. That's not representing the diaspora, that's representing the African American consciousness. So we have a great deal of work still to do as African people, as African people, as a country. But I think the consciousness is also our responsibility. That it is not necessary for it to be an African American experience or a Black American experience in order for the story to be told. So as this country embraces, as I say, the country, the industry, the film and television industry, embraces more African voices, which is happening during this revolution. Let us take on the responsibility, accept the responsibility, and be proactive in telling stories, embracing the diaspora. So allow the Brits to be Brit and speak Brit. Allow the Nigerians to be Nigerian and speak with their accent. Allow all of these cultures and consciousnesses to be in your story. It does not by any chance dilute the story at all. It just raises one's awareness of our wider self.
And that's an interesting point because you, excuse me, you will see it in other, and I'm gonna, and I say that very loosely, other or generalize that other films where other cultures or other races are free to exhibit their race from different countries. whether they have a European accent or they're speaking French, like it's celebrated. As opposed to us, it's one
Yeah.
dimension and then that's it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially with our black film producers, I feel like it's imperative that, because of the fact, they do have the opportunity to decide what they want to do, but I do also feel like it is imperative to have that kind of representation, just like what you mentioned. Because what if someone over in Iowa is looking at us, they've never been around a black person. So if they do encounter a black person, their perception is going to be what they see on TV.
Yeah.
It's just like, for an example, before I went to New York for the first time,
Mhm.
I watched, New York things, shows or whatever on TV with my parents, and I always saw New York as somebody always getting mugged, somebody getting kidnapped, somebody, has been severely beaten, just a whole bunch of stuff, just crime scenes. So
Yeah.
when I went to New York the first time, I'm like, okay, well, Henry, you can't wear this because people are out to get you. And they already know, and they already know you're not from here. So you have to dress a certain way. And then you come up here with this southern drawl, like it's over for you. And once I went to New York, it was not like what I was expecting at all. Like I met someone, I actually connected better in DC than I have in other major metropolitan areas. I mean, not DC, but New York, as I have in other metropolitan areas. And I was just like, this is not TV. Like, they're actually really nice people.
Yeah.
But had I not gone and experienced it for myself and just based it on TV, there it is. And it's the same thing with like people from small towns or they're from the South. People always generalize us as being, they're from the country. They're nice people. No, there's mean people everywhere. We probably handle things differently, but there's mean people everywhere.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying as far as the whole representation, and then it shows the true life and the true experience of the different cultures. So I definitely agree with that.
And it's
This
not
is actually
it's not
no. Go
just
ahead.
just you know it's bigger than just the African American consciousness, I mean, and it goes just beyond. For me, it influences so much. It influences how we see ourselves, um,
Hmm.
ourselves physically. Like, there is, um, the ability to for the idea, this industry is very into stock characters. Again, it goes back to do what you know. That's what sold in that movie, so everybody needs to look like that, and it's troubling for me and the many me's that live in this country who don't fit into that consciousness of, I don't look like that. And there's no reason for me to have to look like that to tell this story. I'm constantly, I mean, we can get into the age old conversation about hair. I can be right for a role, but if my hair isn't straightened, then I don't, in the industry's mind, I don't fit that role. I am that character in every way, and I'm rocking the shit out of the role, but let's put on a wig, and that's just an unfortunate reality of this business. And it's a different thing when we talk about, like, obviously, periods, when you're telling us a historical story. Of course, Sissy in the 80s would not be rocking her afro. She would be rocking fashion. And so we're following the fashion of the time. But wouldn't it be beautiful? And I remember a conversation I was having with a director, and I was just in a play. I was working on the show, and I was wearing a wig for the show, and I was just thinking about, gosh, I'd really just love to wear braids, and just the reality that, for the roles that I play, there's no way they're going to hire somebody even with the most immaculate, beautiful braid. You're just, because the idea is African people, intelligent African people don't wear braids. What kind of bullshit is that? But it is a bullshit that we also perpetuate. We as Africans to perpetuate. We can't put all of that blame on. It's a shared responsibility.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, having said that, such as yourself, Danson, Idris, what's the guy's name that play on For Life? I forget his name. But there has been a lot of talk about Black British actors, and accuse them of appropriating to Black Americans. When it comes to telling very specific American stories, it can sometimes feel like a slap in the face to the Black community. So this actor, DeVere Rogers, stated, what is the rift? Well, I would say the actor concludes the statement with, it's like we as Americans can't tell our own story. What is the rift between Black Americans and Black British?
I don't know, but whatever the fucking rift is, get over it. I am African, British, Jamaican, and I claim all of that. I can tell an African story. I can tell a Jamaican story. I can tell the American story. And I should not be limited in my ability to tell any of them just because I wasn't born in this country. It's completely ridiculous. It's Sandra Oh is in England now filming her series. I don't remember, some something like Luther series that she got an Emmy for. Should somebody in England be chastising her because she is in England being the lead in her TV show in England? It's bullshit. Lovingly, respectfully, I understand the frustration, because there is the consciousness that there are only so many parts. And when you give a job to someone who wasn't born here, you're taking the food out of the mouth of an American. I get it. I understand the argument. I don't think it is simply an argument that surrounds the entertainment industry. I think that American people, whenever we experience unemployment, whenever there is an economic struggle, there is the consciousness, and I understand it, of why is somebody from another country getting a job that I can do, right? And it kind of sounds the same thing when some white person says to me, affirmative action is not necessary. Why is somebody, I'm a white broke person, and I have, why do you get this job because you're Black? And I mean, I get it. There it is a valid concern, but be careful. Let us not start eating at each other because we didn't look. We are all African people. We just happen to have been brought to a different country on slave ships. We are all the same people. We all have the same pain, joy, laughter, anger, all of it. And just because we lived somewhere else geographically and we have a different accent does not mean that we do not have the ability to tell the same story with the same depth. It is the human experience that we are telling in our African skin, period.
Period.
What I would love is for us, as we just said, to get to a point where I don't have to disguise my accent and pretend that I'm American. Again, when we are telling historical stories, as with that sister who was playing Harriet from England, sure, of course, you have to, do the accent because you're telling an American story, and this is a historical drama. So you do what you have to do, but there's nothing stopping. Okay, so what's the name? Jill Scott. Remember, years ago, there was a mystery, a detective mystery thing that was being shot in I don't know, in Africa. It was a very successful detective series, and she was portraying an African person, a person from the continent. She was carrying an accent and she was doing her thing. What are you gonna say? She shouldn't do that? She did a great job, and it was a great series. We shouldn't. It's expand your consciousness, expand your understanding of yourself, expand your horizons, travel, see yourself, so that you are not limiting yourself to what is here, because you are viable everywhere. And I am not going to limit myself and my consciousness because you feel that you're stuck here and this is your only choice. It's not my only choice.
I love it. Thank you. I love it. There's more than enough for everybody. The world is designed where there's more than enough for everyone. And I can't speak, I'll speak just from what I have experienced. And of course, as an American, we do from time to time feel as if it's entitled. We're entitled. And that has to go. Like, it's pretty much, I love the fact where it's almost as if where it's the best person for the role, not just because I'm here and this person is from over there. No, it's the best person for it. And if you fit the role, you fit the role. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Karma's a bitch. Karma is a bitch. Careful the energy you put out. Careful the energy you put out.
And like what we were discussing before we came on live, you're right. Like, expose yourself, go out and explore. Converse with someone outside of your realm, because it definitely will make you a better person. Like I told you my experience about attending at HBCU and how that definitely developed me into, who I am today, and have definitely an appreciation about my community.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think to a certain degree with this call out is pretty much like we're being prejudiced amongst ourselves.
It is, yeah, yeah.
And it's sad.
I'm studying with my son. We do African studies, and we're just what's his name? Henry Louis Gates. Henry
Louis Gates.
Okay. He has a show on PBS, a series on PBS called Great African Civilizations. And we're just getting to the fourth episode, where it begins to talk about, it goes through, the beginning of the human experience, and the many nations of excellence that are African people. And we get to the fourth episode when it begins to bring in the European understanding of slavery, the European contribution, and how it started in the Congo. And just that, simply, we started in the Congo, and the ships were taken to wherever the need was for tobacco and for cotton and for blah blah blah. And when you get down to just that, it was just simply where we ended up. It's just that simple. We just ended up in different places, but we all came from one place. There is no difference. I promise you, there is no difference.
No.
When you in your hand, when you're telling a story, or you're, doing data entry, or you are, whatever your job is, it's a matter of it's the same material. You're being American or African, or it doesn't matter. And sorry, just like you were saying,
No.
enough to go around. There's absolutely enough to go around.
Yeah, it's more than enough to go around. Like, it's abundant, exceeding. Like, it's more than enough. Like, you don't have to worry about where you're going to get your next dollar. If you're confident and proficient, confident in yourself, and know who you are and proficient, you should be okay.
But it
Like,
is important to embrace, and I don't know who said this, I'm not speaking to that person specifically. It is important to, as you address your difference of opinion, we must embrace what's really going on, and that is the fear, the fear of lack, and what that energy that generates within you when you live in that fear. And it is a matter of trusting, truly trusting that your time will come, and there is more than enough to go around. And it's not taking money out of your pocket. I promise you, it's not. It's not. It's addressing the fear, and embracing that and healing that fear, so that you can see yourself as larger than you perceive yourself to be right now.
how can we bridge the gap between Hollywood and African content?
Well, it's how do we bridge the gap? I mean, I think it's really simple. I mean, I think it's just a matter of as we write stories, as we artists, sans race, write stories, let us allow ourselves to be truthful about what is around us. Let's give ourselves permission to represent the truth really as it is, right? So if we're writing a story about an office, let us look around the office and then just embrace that there are there's somebody with Down syndrome in the next cubicle, or there's somebody in a wheelchair in the next cubicle, or there's somebody, there's a Native American, or there's a whatever. I mean, just be committed to writing truthful stories. I think each human being, and not just the African. I mean, the white folk too, or the Latino, the Asian, the Native American, whatever it is. I mean, it's not complicated. It's really just simple. It's just giving yourself permission to be truthful, and not buy into the idea that you have to follow fashion. That's a beautiful thing about this revolution. It is, I see this as not just It's not about, it is not only about race. It certainly is about race, but it is, when I think of social justice, I'm thinking of more than race. I'm thinking of a consciousness that is beyond race. It is a revolutionary breaking out of the caste system consciousness, breaking out of the oppression even within ourselves, the oppression that we have embraced without even knowing. And again, I'm not speaking solely of the racial oppression. There is no doubt that it exists. Come on. But the sexual oppression, the the whole embracing of the gender fluid and the fluid neutral and the transgender and the this and the this. Why are all of these things coming up now? Well, they're coming up because we are crying out, whether we know it or not, we're crying out for breaking the mold, for creating a whole new consciousness of disrupting, of individuality, and asking for all of that to exist. It's not just a time for African pride. It's not just, it is a time for being proud of your own thoughts, giving yourself permission to exist, period, in your own skin, and love that and live in that love, whatever it is, right? It is, the cheesy age of Aquarius. It is the age of yes consciousness, where we allow ourselves permission to exist truthfully and speak truthfully. I was just given this mantra, where there is fear, replace it with courage, that I may live and speak my truth with ease. That is what this revolution is for me.
And I like that. I think I should put that into my mantra, to live in truth, so that I can also live at ease. And I think you said that very well. I like that. I like that a lot actually. Um, how can we keep the progression on Black experience relevant and not consider it as a fad? So, like as we talked earlier, right now it's like we're trending. Support Black businesses, support um, anything dealing with Black, supported, because of the social climate that we have entered. Is trying to create more of a calming space. How can we continue to keep our voices loud and heard, and not have it silent after a while? Because I look at it like fashion. Right now it's in, everything is in for Black, 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 Black. And then maybe a couple of months later, it's like, okay, we did that, done that, we're over it, I'm tired of seeing it, let's move back to what we were doing.
Well, as you're saying that, what is coming to me is Andrew Young. It wasn't a fad for Andrew Young. It wasn't a fad for Malcolm X. It wasn't a fad for Martin Luther King. It wasn't a fad for the thousands and millions of other people who lived their lives speaking truth and freedom, being revolutionaries. It wasn't a fad. So it is up to each individual to take from this. It's up to each individual to choose to carry the torch. And we're not, and to choose that it is not, just because the marches have stopped doesn't mean the revolution has stopped. And there are many, I think of the Black Panther Party that was destroyed because of fear. It didn't stop many members of the Black Panther Party, yeah, that party may have ended, but the revolution continued through them. Do you know? So it's up to each individual to make that choice for themselves, how they use their power and their voice. That doesn't stop. That is not fashionable. It is a choice.
How can we reclaim images of women from Africa and the Black diaspora?
How can we reclaim images of women? Well, the way I think, again, is the best way. African people need to be the photographers. African people need to be the writers. African people need to be the filmmakers. African people need to be the magazine editors and founders. African people need to allow themselves the permission to, again, I mean, I think that's the theme of this interview, right? This is be disruptive.
Just be disruptive. I like that.
That's the essence. Be disruptive.
I like that. I like that a lot. So we have talked and talked and talked. And look, I have more questions, but I'm sure everyone else is probably like, oh, okay, Henry, bring it on home now. And I know you have stuff to do too.
Sorry, we are.
Like I said before, like I could just talk to you for hours and hours. Like I really, really love your spirit. I just love you in general. Like I just think you are an amazing person. And yeah, I'm just blessed and thankful to have you to be on two magazine segment. So I guess I have two questions, which are not as in depth as the other ones, but what's next for you?
I don't know. I don't know. You know, I am, an actor. I'm allowing myself to write. I'll say that.
Mm,
Allowing myself to. One of the beautiful things that has happened with Snowfall is that we actors have. Um, I have had the opportunity to spend a lot of time behind the scenes, and I am
mhm,
developing an appreciation and, more importantly, a knowledge of how things work. And I'm using that knowledge to step outside of my own box of understanding and expanding the walls to embrace other images of myself, you know?
mm. Well, if you ever decide to produce a film, call me. Now, it's going to take me a while to try to camouflage my southern accent, but
I would need
I'll
to.
do the best I can.
We just talked about that. If you're right, your accent, right? Because you exist in New York
I
with
admit.
Lana. So why not?
Now, I always like to conclude my interview with words of wisdom. So, complete this sentence, if you can. When you see me as.
When you see me, oh, when you see me as the one holding your hand, walking with you through this journey.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, one person said, Marcia said, tell Franklin he needs to get himself together.
He's trying. He is trying. Seriously trying. We all are. He is trying. It's gonna, he is trying his best. He's trying to figure it out. He's a young man with a great deal of power that he didn't see coming, and he is trying to figure out how to live his best life and achieve his ultimate goal, which is lifting up his community. He's trying. It's a fucked up way, and we find that at hindsight, but he's doing what he desperately can to get there.
But you know what? I also, and this is just, I know this is kind of off topic. Well, it could probably be on topic too. But as I watch Snowfall, I think about when I was a professor teaching fashion and marketing, and we had this conversation about counterfeit. So counterfeit items now are like the new, the crack epidemic for this time. So there are like a lot of drug dealers who have left the game to go into counterfeit because it's so lucrative. Because if you think about it now, we live in a microwave society and people want things right now,
Yeah.
whether it's real or whether it's fake. There was a documentary I watched where one lady, and she had the means to get like this new Louis Vuitton, but she said she doesn't have time to wait for it to come off the runway because it's limited. It could only maybe be like two or three pieces that's out, and then they're sold. So she rather just get a fake one. She said she has a person that makes it, and she
Really?
said only the person that's in the field would really know that it's fake, and she rather purchase a fake one. There was some place I saw in the film where it was in Los Angeles where they had like these whole hidden spaces where it's I think it's like invite only, and you go in and it turn the whole wall around, and it's like all of this counterfeit stuff. And even if you think about it now, during COVID, we're looking at counterfeit masks. There's counterfeit vaccines, and this counterfeit stuff is coming in at such a rate that they don't even have enough people at the port to control all of this. And what comes along with counterfeit, just like Snowfall, we see, sex trafficking. We see women abuse, child labor. It's so much that's involved that I took that part and related to Snowfall.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I am not familiar with counterfeit, but I mean, whether it's counterfeit or drugs or the stock market or whatever it is, there is greed and corruption everywhere. I mean, it's just a different side effect, or it's just a different thing. The product will always be there. The product to get rich quick or to whatever will always be there. It's just a part of the human existence, right? Survival of the fittest. um, and like COVID, something comes along that forces you to reconnect with your humanity. um, this I have often asked, why COVID? How did we get here? What
I say that every day. We
how,
get
how did we get here? But I think we got here because I think we've been living a very disconnected life, and it was time, for whatever reason, to you know I don't know, to just get slapped on the wrist and shut down, and you're grounded for a while, man. Like I say to my son, get back to center, dude. Get back to center so that we can move forward, because we can't right now. You're tripping. And you're tripping. I think so. And I think, every generation has their own trip, whatever the fuck it is. And I think that's just where Franklin was in the 80s, where we were in the 80s, where we are now.
Where we are now.
Cyclical. It's cyclical. It's cyclical. And now the thing is COVID. Back then it was crack.
It's crack.
It was something else,
And it's just going to be a continued cycle. So look, a lot of us probably are living the real life snowfall and don't know it.
In some way or another, right?
In some way or another. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Hyatt, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for supporting me. I am truly appreciative of your time, of your talent, of your gift. Thank you for being a major contributor to our society. Thank you so much. You are definitely influential.
Thank you for creating, what is it, 2 Magazine? Thank you for being so bold to step outside of any box that you were put in, and moving to New York, and creating your yes, and sharing your yes with all of your viewers and all of us, and reaching out and sharing your yes with us at Snowfall and with me. Thank you, bruh.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. Hopefully we can come back and connect again. I know your schedule is tight, but maybe in the future we could connect again. I really enjoyed it. Thank you all to the viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do have a special performance, so please do not leave. And I'll go more into that. And she's going to conclude the segment. But before we go into this performance, you see, you're going to be entertained. HEN, that's from Henry, HENTERTAIN, entertain in just a second. But before we transition into that, I just want to say, of course, this concludes Black History Month. And so I would like to leave you with a thought as well. Just because crayons are broken, it doesn't mean they can't color. I am Henry Edwards II, always keeping you informed, in style, and inspired. The person that you will see next is Caitlin Edwards. No, we're not related, but I don't think so. Or as they say in the country, it could be another set of Edwards. I don't know. But anyway, she's a violinist, and she has performed with John Legend, India Ari, Carmen, Yolanda Adams, and the list just goes on and on and on. She's very phenomenal. Take a look. And until next time, be exclusive, never sacrifice individuality for conformity. Thank you again.